Living the life.
Saiad, he's a graduate in sociology and politics and one of the trustees at UK Islamic Mission Masjid Ibrahim here close in Barking. He's here tonight to talk about how the masjid is taking precautions amid the COVID scenario. So welcome, Usaid, to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Welcome. Now listen, are you still a student?
I like to see myself as a student, but yes, I've graduated, alhamdulillah.
You have graduated now. I mean, you look quite young to be a trustee, mashallah.
Yeah, I was quite young when I got into the trustees group, so yeah.
Alhamdulillah. And look, just on a side point before we talk about how the masjid's, dealing with the COVID scenario. I mean, what's it like? Because normally trustees are all babajis like me and you.
Uncle G's, right?
They're Uncle G's.
Yeah.
Grey hair. How does that work? I mean, for someone young like you, the dynamics, and tell us about it.
I mean, one unusual thing you don't usually hear is that we do have actually a lot of old people in our trustee group, in our committee, but they're slowly started to look towards us for solutions or listen to our ideas. So it's something which is unusual. You might not think happens, but actually, alhamdulillah, in our masjid, it happens a lot. Where I'm invited and I have two more other brothers who come to the committee meetings and we sit down and our opinions are valued and actually people listen to us. So alhamdulillah, it's actually quite good. But then there's politics and there's shouting and everything like that.
No, but this is it, right? Because obviously, as youngsters, we always talk respect your elders. So does it ever get to a point where they go, Putter, you don't listen to me, I'm telling your dad? Because they're your dad's mates, right? So it's like, what'd you do in that scenario?
Sometimes that happens, and sometimes I think in our community sometimes things can get heated. But the beautiful thing in our trustee group is that we do get political, we do shout, but at the end of the day, everyone hugs and everyone.
Well, you can tell looking at Saiad, they must look at him and say, "Yeah, munda siana hai."
Absolutely,
he's a good boy. He's a good boy. Anyway, listen, tell us about the masjid. I mean, how are you guys coping at the moment?
Okay, so alhamdulillah, our masjid has a lot of things going on. Before COVID, there were so many things going on in the masjid. We had weekend school, we had madrasa, we had an autism school on the weekend as well. And as soon as COVID came, we had to shut all of that down. So the biggest response that we had to have is, what are we going to do to continue these?
Said before you go there, I mean, look, the masjid full of activity. I mean, an autistic group. I mean, that's unheard of, right? Yeah. So much going on, and suddenly when the news broke that it's time to shut up shop, so to speak, what was the feeling amongst the trustees, the management, and the volunteers?
Oh, like anything, like anywhere, there was a mixed there was a lot of mixed emotions within the trustees. Some people were like, we're not going to close the masjid at all. We have to keep it open. And there's some people saying, no, close it down tonight. So, you had to find that balance in the middle where there was two groups, not arguing, but let's say debating against each other. So, yeah, of course, that, making the decision on what's going to happen with the masjid next was really, really tough. And a lot of the masjids, not only Masjid Ibrahim had to go through it, but across the whole of the country, every masjid had to sit down as well and, had to think about what happens next.
Because I imagine, what was the community like? Because obviously, a lot of the community was saying we still want to pray. And a lot of people said, why the mosques listen to these rules for? We should carry on because at the end of the day, our prayer is more important. So did they come back? And obviously, we're saying, health is also important. Pray at home. You don't have to pray here. But was there a lot of backlash from the community, or did you find the community was understanding?
I mean, in the beginning, there was a lot of, as humans, we get emotional and, we think, oh, no, this can't be happening. You have to keep masjids open. But alhamdulillah, the community actually, some of them, some of the locals would stand outside the masjid to listen, to hear what would happen next. And the instructions that were given, people followed. And I think that one beautiful thing that the masjid done is that the communication and, telling everyone in the community what's going on was very, very clear. So in that way, because we were very clear to the community, we didn't have a lot of frustration. We didn't have a lot of anger from the community. Everyone understood, and alhamdulillah, everyone played their part as well. So
I mean, on that note, communication, that must have been very difficult. So most masajids is communicating people standing at the Jummah khutbah or giving a leaflet out. We're not really into emails at that particular level. How difficult was it communicating to the congregation that the lockdown, this is what's happening, and then obviously when you start to open up, how difficult was that?
Again, in the beginning, it was quite difficult because everyone's in neglect. Everyone's like, no, this can't happen. It's not going to happen in the UK. Stuff like that. It's not going to happen in Barking. But I think especially through Salah, at the end of every Salah, there was the imam would stand up, or someone local would stand up and say, look, this is what's going to happen. We are going to have a meeting. We might be closing. We don't know, but we want everyone to come into the masjid, or at least, because our masjid, alhamdulillah, is very good with social media. We have our Twitter, we have our Facebook, we have our YouTube. And through that, there's a lot of clarification that was given.
I mean, hopefully you keep the social media updated, because I always find that a nightmare with my local mosque. Never update. The story's still from December 2001.
They only contact the people that come there regularly.
This is it. If you come regularly, Someone like me who relies on social media never find out, but it's so good to hear, mashallah. You've got that plan. Now, of course, rules changed just before Eid al-Adha.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Actually, let's just go back a minute. Yeah. What was Ramadan like? Because that was...
That's true. That was quite a big challenge for all of us, right?
Hopefully, we're never going to experience that again.
Inshallah.
But what was it like? I mean, obviously, by that time, with the masjids had been closed. But to have a Ramadan, I mean, I know where the masjid is, and it's a very busy area. But to have the masjid locked down in Ramadan, what was going on in the community at that time?
Do you know, on the first night of Ramadan, I came into the masjid to drop a few things off, and I looked inside, and it was just so airy, it was so quiet, the lights were turned off. And it brought like hairs at the back of my neck stand up, and it just felt so different. It didn't feel right. But I think one thing that brought life into our masjid was the fact that we opened up the food bank, which was, as soon as Ramadan started, we opened up the food bank, and that brought so much life that it kept us busy. Where we had so many people coming every day, locals and outside the community, to collect hot food, to collect basic necessities like cleaning products and baby food, anything that is needed in a household, we were providing. And because we had that in the masjid, it kept us really busy as well. So that kind of compensated.
Why did the mosque decide to do that? What was the reasoning behind this? Is it something to do with the area? What was the reason for it?
I think it was maybe 2 or 3 reasons. One of them is, obviously, a lot of people had lost their jobs, or they had gone into furlough, and we don't know the situation of people in the community. Someone might be suffering a lot. Rather than exploiting them, we had this safe area where you could come into the masjid and you can say, look, I need help, and the masjid would discreetly help you. But yeah, the low, Barking, there's a percentage of people that are bachelors, who come and they have manual labor work. Sure. And a lot of them were stopped. So the income had stopped as well. So that was one of the reasons as well we opened up the food bank.
And there's a lot of international students around in London, particularly, who obviously were no longer able to not only attend university, but they had part-time jobs that had suddenly disappeared overnight.
Yeah, that was a big one as well. A lot of international students. Again, it was a mixture of people, to be honest. And alhamdulillah, I remember sometimes when I was helping out, I would see non-Muslims come, homeless people, from the community that would come, and they would find out about this food bank, and they would all line up. And, it was beautiful seeing people coming in and helping us out as well.
So naturally, the people who are coming, you would have had Muslims and non-Muslims as well. So
yes.
What was the kind of reception you're receiving from people of all faiths? Because I guess a lot of them maybe haven't had an interaction with the masjid before, I'd imagine, unless it's the kind of, the open mosque visit day that we do every single year. So did you find, the opinions and attitudes change towards our masajids and Muslims as a whole?
Yes, alhamdulillah. What's really good about our community is that even the non-Muslims around the masjid, I think they've come to recognize that our masjid does a lot for the community, and they have a lot of respect for us as well. One big thing that happened was the local council stepped in, and I remember they gave us 2 massive fridges, and they were providing us with a lot of frozen food that was coming in.
Fantastic.
And so we never expected, that much help from the council, but they actually helped us out a lot when it came to food and, fridges and where to store food as well.
And then, look, I mean, as you mentioned, that was when the mosque...
That's when they started opening up,
when the mosque started to
reopen. A week before, I think, yeah.
How difficult was it to decide, put the process in place, the sanitizer, the face mask, and the prayer mat, and, the distancing, etc.? How difficult was it to plan all that?
We changed the structure of where everyone stands a couple of times, actually. There was a lot of argumentation of where people should stand, etc., etc. And I remember a couple of brothers then came in and said, okay, let us do it, and we'll show you how it's done, etc. But one thing we done, I don't know if you've seen the video, we managed to make a video the 2 days before the masjid actually reopened as well. And the masjid showed, how to come in, what to bring, who's allowed, not allowed, where to stand, and how to leave. So we had a one-way system in and out of the masjid. And we made sure all the posters were up. We made sure the video was displayed everywhere. So when the musallis came in, it was actually it flew really well.
MashaAllah. Now, the thing is, with the inner city London, because I suppose Barking still classes as kind of inner city. Yeah. I've always found the problem we have with mosques is obviously space, right? So we've taken on a former shop or it's a commercial building and we convert it into a masjid. And normally there's only one entrance, one way in and out. So how were you able to manage that side? Because obviously they're saying there should be a one-way system. So was it that you had two different entrances that you could utilize? How did you manage that component of it all?
So we're blessed with two entrances of the masjid, one through the back and one through the front. So yeah, everyone came in through the back and everyone left through the front of the masjid.
And are you finding any people that are kind of being a bit difficult?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, a lot of the time, what we've done is we restricted anyone over the age of 60, I believe, or anyone with underlying health difficulties. So one thing, obviously, that we were going to face is a lot of the old community coming in and saying, "No, I want to pray," and they would come stand at the door without their masks, without their musalla, and they would stand. And we're thinking like, "Okay, what do we do now in this circumstance? You can't be rude to them. They are elders." And many times there was a bit of confrontation, but alhamdulillah, I think the staff in the masjid handled it well, where we said, "Look, come in this once. We're going to give you the PPE, but you have to understand that next time, we can't allow you to come in."
So I'm assuming you've got your little temperature thing at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
at least that we can see. Yeah. You're not allowed in. You are allowed in.
And what about Jummah? I mean, are you having to have several Jummahs basically?
Yes. We have a few. We have a few Jamaats. We have, I think, 4 Jamaats, and we utilize both the floors of the masjid. So. Again, yeah.
I've got a pet peeve. I've got a pet peeve with our brothers, right? And we're not sisters so much, but brothers more so than anything else. When the Jamaat finishes, especially Jummah, Imam does salam, rush to the door. Yeah. And that hasn't stopped. Even in the mosque I go to, as much as I love the brothers and sisters at Newbury Park Mosque, they still rush and we can't control it. Have you had the same problem? What can we say to our brothers to just calm down?
Yeah, I know. I think it's in the moment as well. I think when you're a committee member or when you're a volunteer, you have to have a lot of patience when it comes to this, because no matter how much you shout and you're like, stop, like, relax, you get out the door, don't worry. You still have people rushing in as well. I think I don't know how to actually deal with that. We've actually always had that problem in the community.
Row by row.
No, it has to be, but they still jump over. Yeah, they still jump over. You can't stop them.
And look, what's the future like? I mean, obviously we don't know what regulations and rules are going to be. Do you think that people have basically rekindled their love of the masjid because they've not been able to go? And I mean, to be honest, most people who are complaining about the masjid closing didn't attend in the first place.
Yeah, true. Right? True.
So, what are we talking about here? Have people really thought, what, I'm going to attend the masjid from now on?
Yes, I most definitely think, especially the fact that the masjid wasn't open during Ramadan, that hit everyone, because even some people might not pray every prayer in the masjid. It's quite difficult, especially for a working person. But in Ramadan, at least everyone tries to attend Taraweeh at night. So I think a lot of people felt that, and because they felt that, you feel the difference when people come into the masjid sometimes as well. It's like you said, is this connection that they've made again with the masjid. It's like this long last love.
Yes, long lost love. That's it, absolutely. Yeah. And I've got to ask on behalf of our sisters who are watching this as well. Now I know space is restricted, and I know it's very difficult. But do you think in time we can get back to a position? Because I know many mosques are not letting the sisters back in right now, not because we don't want them there, but because I guess space difficulties. Do you think we could? Is there a way around that? What would your advice be to our sisters?
Some masjids I know that they are facilitating sisters. Others. All I can say is, be patient. We're rewarded for our intentions as well. So, and I know all of us, brothers and sisters, we both want to pray in the masjid. But if that's not available, we have to look at the current situation as well. And there's reward in having patience as well. So, inshallah, be patient. And at the end of every hardship, there is ease as well. So, inshallah, we'll all get out in the masjid.
And talking about hardship, I mean, obviously, funding for the masajids have been very difficult in this time. They didn't have that Jummah collection, Ramadan, etc. How did you manage to cope during that period on the financial side of things?
In all honesty, I don't know. I don't touch anything financial in the masjid, so unfortunately.
But you're still running.
I think one thing we've done is we requested help from the council, and another thing was we opened up a couple of GoFundMe pages. But that's
brilliant.
I don't know much. Yeah.
Because presumably the mosques don't have to pay things like business rates or anything like that, do they? Because I know a lot of the time we have...
You should know, you're a finance guy.
I'm just thinking, I don't know the answer, whether they have to pay, like council tax or...
I have no idea.
Because the bills presumably, because, well, we're not in this, so we're not using the electricity, whatever. But presumably you have to pay some form of council tax or business rates. And was any relief given to our masjids for that?
Again, I don't know. I think I'm the last person to ask anything on financial side.
Okay, listen, let's make life easy for you. If there's people out there around the barking area, around the masjid area, how do they get involved in the food bank and the other activities, volunteering for Jummah and car parking, all the rest of it?
Phone up the masjid and just say, look, I want to volunteer, I want to help. Where can I help? What is my speciality? And I am 100% sure anyone who picks up will either take your contact details down or will tell you over the phone, if you want to help out, you can help us in the food bank, or you can help us with a project that's going on, especially with our madrasa and our autism school. We need financial help running that, or it might be volunteers helping out in the...
Actually, I've got to ask very quickly, tell us a bit about this autism school, because I've never heard of this in any institution, certainly our masjids. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about that.
So, there's a lot of negative stigma around, children of disability and autism coming into the masjid. A lot of people, look at them and say, you're making too much noise. They shouldn't be allowed to come in. They're disturbing my prayer. So what we've done is we opened a safe space during the weekend where we have certain groups of children that come in who have different levels of different disabilities or different forms of autism, whether it's non-communication or not. And what we do is we just give them a place to play in the masjid, and little by little, if they can, teach them, Arabic or give them stories of the Quran. But we want them to feel comfortable in the masjid, so when they grow up, they feel like, a masjid is a place that I can go to, even if it's not to pray salah, but I can go sit down, or I'm welcomed in that space.
And what about your social media handles?
Social media, our chairman handles the social media.
And what?
That means it's a fantastic social media post which are coming out.
What are the social media handles? if somebody wants to go online, what's the name of the masjid?
Masjid Ibrahim, Masjid Ibrahim Barking.
And I'm assuming that's the same for all the social media handles as well.
For all of them. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, listen, keep up the good work, inshallah, and keep inspiring other young people around you, inshallah. I'm hoping that you'll become one of those trustee members as they get older and grey like us. You'll, inshallah, recruit and train the younger generation as well.
Inshallah.
MashaAllah. Fantastic one. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Living the life.